Hi everybody, welcome back to the Retro Ghetto, and without wishing to state the obvious, I'm a Super Nintendo fan. I'm a big Super Nintendo fan, and it dawned on me recently that whilst I have made various videos looking at my Super Nintendo collection, I've never actually delved into what are my favourite games for what is my favourite system. So let's do something about that. I'm going to give you 10 of my favourite games on the Super Nintendo. It would be boring if I sat here and just listed Mario, Mega Man, Street Fighter, Donkey Kong games. So I'm going to try and give you a few games that are somewhat below the radar. One could maybe even say hidden gems. Let's get into it. So this first game is a very recent addition for me, and one which actually inspired me making this video, and that is Skyblazer. This 1994 Sony published game is actually listed as a platformer, but in reality it's much more than that. Complete with fantastic level design and so much more than just a left to right side scrolling game. This game utilises the Mode 7 chip as well as any other game on the system. One of the things that I really love about this game is the amount of moves that you have available to yourself. You can also unlock various specials as you progress and beat different bosses. And whilst it's not necessarily a difficult game, you will enjoy every one of these 17 levels utilising all the movesets that you earn throughout. Okay, so next up we've got another platformer, but a very different one. We've got Bugs Bunny's Rabbit Rampage. Developed by Viacom in 1994, this game is everything that you would want from a Bugs Bunny game. It features a whole variety of supporting cast from the Looney Tunes cartoons. There's 10 fantastic levels, and as you guys will be seeing now, it's some of the best animated graphics that you will see on the Super Nintendo. Yes, licensed platformers were 10 a penny in the 90s, and a lot of which are in fact terrible. However, this one is very good. One of the unique things about this game is the animator. So it almost breaks down that fifth wall. As you're playing, you will see the animator do various different things to generally make Bugs' life a misery, and it's actually very fun to watch that as the game progresses. And it's nice to see that Viacom added something different as opposed to the tried and tested formula of left to right side scrolling platform action. Definitely pick this one up if you get the chance. Bugs Bunny and Rabbit Rampage.
That's all, folks.
Right, next up, I've got a confession to make. I am not a big fan of RPGs. I know. No matter how hard I try, no matter how much I want to love them, I've tried to get into so many over the years and I've just failed to do so. However, I think it's more the turn-based combat which puts me off. So when I was going through the RPGs that are on the Super Nintendo, this one really caught my eye as it's more of an action-based RPG, and that is Illusion of Time, or Gaia, depending on where you are in the world. You play as a boy named Will, and like most RPGs, you are tasked with saving the world from impending doom. However, unlike all RPGs, this one's actually fun, very fun, and also crazy. This game includes cannibals, vampires, and a suicidal pig. Yes, a suicidal pig. The dungeon design in this game is fantastic, and it actually reminds me of A Link to the Past, which is the highest honour I can pay any video game series. This really has got everything that you could want from an RPG. It's got a good story, fantastic visuals, and brilliant music. I'd consider this definitely to be a gateway into the genre. It's not one of those RPGs that's daunting to pick up. You can very much just get straight into this one and get into the action. I thoroughly enjoyed my playthrough with this one and definitely advise playing it if you get the chance. Okay, given my recent obsession with Shmups, I knew that I had to put one on this list. And whilst there are quite a few good Shmups on the system, I always knew it was going to be this one. And that is Super Aleste. Aleste? Space Megaforce. This is a 1992 Toho developed vertical scrolling shoot 'em up. I find it hard to put into words exactly what it is that makes a good shmup a good shmup. I think it's more something that you have to feel for yourself. If I was more technically minded, I'd probably be able to explain to you guys how it's the timing and the hit detection, but as I say, for me it's just one of them games that as soon as you pick it up, you start playing it, you hear the music, you see the visuals, and you see in which the way your ship controls and the weapons that you have available to you, it all just comes together and seems to work seamlessly. At risk of sounding like a broken record and talking about how good all these Super Nintendo game soundtracks are, I have to highlight how good the soundtrack is on this game. Unless you've played this game, you can't really put it into words exactly what this music does for you as you're blasting your way through as many enemies as possible, but by all means, if you ever get the opportunity to play this game, pick it up, play it, you won't regret it. I'm not sure if this next game qualifies as a hidden gem as such, but I guess that depends on how vast your knowledge is of the Super Nintendo library, but it's definitely a franchise which is lesser known outside of Japan, and that is Legend of the Mystical Ninja. The best word that I can use to describe this 1994 platformer is fun. From the moment that you see the facial expressions of the beautiful sprites and all the characters throughout the game, and also the humour that's intrinsically linked throughout, it's just one of them games that you can't help but smile as you're playing through it. Whilst the game itself is brilliant, it's also packed full of mini-games. You can play through Snake, Whack-A-Mole, you can even play through Gradius on this cartridge. This game really is both funny and charming, and I love the way in which the levels seamlessly switch from vertical to horizontal action, and it's actually quite difficult. It provides a nice challenge which does give you a lot of replayability. It's one in fact that I haven't yet beaten, but the more I talk about it, the more it makes me want to put it on and play it as soon as this video ends. But yeah, you definitely can't go wrong with Mystical Ninja. Okay, so next up is a game that I really wanted to put on this list because it's so often overlooked and it's widely available for not a lot of money. You can pick this up right now at CEX for £4 or just £10 for a box copy, and that is Super Tennis. This 1992 tennis game was one of the first games available on the system, and it was critically acclaimed upon its release, regularly scoring 9s out of 10 across the board. I don't understand why there isn't more people talking about this game. Maybe sports games aren't fashionable, but I love the pick up and play nature of this game, especially in co-op. It's so much fun, and I think in a lot of ways it's everything that's missing from modern sports games. I feel like developers nowadays are in this rush to make everything as realistic as possible, often with over convoluted control setups, and it takes you forever just to get into the game. And I think along the way we've lost the element of fun. For me personally, give me sensible soccer or Super Tennis any day. Okay, so next up is a game that I've spoken about a lot on this channel, but I'll be remiss if I didn't include that on this list, and that is Super Hagane. Yes, this game is famously very difficult and famously very expensive. However, neither of those things should detract from how much of a good game this is. In this side-scrolling action platformer, you take the role of a ninja cyborg, and yet whilst difficult, you have so many options available in your arsenal, including 4 weapons, jumps, slides, special moves and more, with which to try and combat that difficulty spike. Given the exclusivity of this game, it's one that I really would love to see remade or remastered and put on the Nintendo Switch eShop, for example. But yeah, with this game, you've got a fantastic moveset, one of the best soundtracks of all time. And did I mention that you get to play as a ninja cyborg? Yeah, you play as a ninja cyborg. Play this one any way you can. When you hear the word Super Nintendo, followed by Capcom, followed by a year in the 90s, it's almost certainly a safe bet. And this game is definitely a winner, and that is Saturday Night Slam Masters. This 1993 wrestling game actually plays more like a traditional beat-em-up. Think Final Fight, but within the confines of a wrestling ring. Originally an arcade game, the Super Nintendo port does include 4-player co-op functionality and has a lot of replay value. As you would expect from Capcom, it's a very well polished game with a colourful cast of playable characters. Definitely pick this one up if you can pin down a copy. This next game is my favourite Disney game on the system, and that's high praise given how many Disney titles that were released on the Super Nintendo library, and that is Goof Troop. This 1993 Capcom release, you play as Goofy and Max in a top-down action game focused around puzzle solving and on your quest to free Pete from a pirate ship. Whether you decide to play in single player or co-op, this game really ticks all the boxes. Amazing graphics, music, and some of the best level design on the whole of the Super Nintendo. My only criticism with this game is just that it's too short. With just 5 levels, even with its progressive difficulty spike, it did leave me wanting more, but otherwise this is a flawless game. Okay, so next up we've got another platformer, but it certainly isn't just another platformer. It's one of the best platformers, and that is Sparkster. It's a 1994 Konami developed game, and it's definitely one of the best on the system. Although the sequel to Sega's Rocket Knight Adventures is actually a different game to the release under the same name on the Mega Drive, Sparkster. I don't know about you, but I miss them days when consoles would have the same game but it'd be released with different versions and different variations, and I don't even know what kids argue about in the playground these days. And whilst I'm discussing the Super Nintendo release, you can actually see the roots of Sega in here, and I think it's almost the best of both worlds. You get the sort of speed that you would expect from Sega, but you also get the colour palette and the music that you would associate with Super Nintendo. It's very much the merging of 2 of the best game consoles ever made, and yeah, for that reason alone, I love Sparkster, and it's well worth playing through if you get the chance. So there we go, 10 Super games on 1 Super console, and honestly, I could have made a top 50 list. So let me know via the like button if you enjoyed this video, because I can easily make some more. Such is the vast, fantastic library of the Super Nintendo. Let me know in the comment section if I've missed any of your personal favourites. If you've got any hidden gems that I didn't mention on this, I'd love to see it in the comment section, and maybe there's one I don't know about that I need to add to my collection too. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you do want to see more content from myself, hit that subscribe button, play your games, keep it retro. I'll see you all real soon. Take care.
Retro Ghetto.